And now, another Rock Sports Network presentation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into the very first episode of Homegrown. I'm Brendan McDaniels. Each week, we're going to introduce you to a former Rochester athlete, born and raised right here in Rochester. We're going to talk about their time growing up in the city, their rise to stardom, their post-playing career, everything about their life, all within 30 minutes right here on Rock Sports Network. So glad you can join us. We've got a lot of great guests coming up in this first season, but we are absolutely excited to introduce our very first guest on our very first show. He's the pride of East High School, right in the city of Rochester, Syracuse University, the greatest show on turf, St. Louis Rams, and the founder of the Champion Academy, helping middle school and high school inner city kids make their way out to a better life right here in Rochester. Our first guest is Roland Williams, joining us from Los Angeles, California tonight. Roland, thank you so much for joining us and being our first guest.
Oh, well, it's an honor, man. Just enjoying time here in quarantine, getting better. And it's always good to reflect on how I got here. What a journey it's been.
Well, Roland, let's start at the beginning. I mean, you grew up right in the inner city of Rochester, and you know as full as anybody, it's not easy to get out of there, and you need to find a way out and, you know, an opportunity to be successful. And lucky for you, you were able to find football at an early age, and you really used that to not only shape your early life, but really to become a successful businessman post-career. So tell us, how did it all get started here in Rochester?
Well, the crazy story is that I was so not good at football growing up. I think we all play because it's the thing to do when it's not basketball season. But just like most kids, basketball was my original first love. My freshman year at high school, I was a big guy. I played to be around my friends. They made me play O-line and D-line. Did the best I could. And then our freshman Coach Giles, did a tackle eligible play and ran me on a little, tackle eligible runner route. And that was sort of my first time sort of getting out and going outside of being on the O-line. And ironically, I caught the eye of our varsity coach at the time, Craig Chilton, and he brought me as a sophomore to play varsity. And I was like, why do you want me to play varsity? He's like, because you're playing varsity. I said, what position? He said, tight end. I said, what's a tight end? He said, like Mark Bavaro, you big dope from the Giants. And of course, we all know who Mark Bavaro is. I was like, right. So I sat the bench my sophomore year, didn't play at all. Art Long was the starting tight end for East High Orientals back when I was a sophomore, 6'10" tight end. I didn't get any playing time at all, but I watched and they pounded on me an awful lot. My junior year, where I was getting ready to be a big star, I was a starter. I actually broke my foot the first game of the season. So as you can tell, my original start to football wasn't so great. But I think that's the critical part of my story, because I had a chance to spend time in the classroom, to connect with the world outside of just playing in that bubble of sports. I faced the ridicule of being not good enough, being hurt, glass man, whatever joke they could think of, right? And it forced me to look inside as to who I was as a person outside of sports, right? And so I think that journey was great. It helped me get the SATs, all these things, and the 3.0 GPA, and taught me to appreciate everybody, from the golf person to the person who didn't play sports at all, to the lady that helped me get my food and helped me with my crutches. It really gave me a chance to get to know the whole inclusive part of being a high school athlete. Long story short, things turned around my senior year, obviously, and the rest is history. And I'm just so grateful to everybody who was a part of my journey, helping me in mind, body, and spirit, helping me overcome challenges at home and in my neighborhood, and just really just being there to help me be the best I could be. And I'm glad I've made my hometown pretty proud over my career, and I'm trying to still do it now in my old age.
Well, it's an amazing story, and we look forward to getting into it. But I mean, when you go back and you look at that, I mean, you weren't that guy that was a blue chip freshman, sophomore year that everybody thought that every major college was looking at. I mean, you had to work hard to get to that point. And really, who was the person or what was the moment where it really became a reality that you could go somewhere beyond high school with football?
I think one of the things I got to give credit to my dad. He worked in juvenile correctionals for 30 plus years, and a guy told him one time about how they give out scholarships to kids who go to the Syracuse University football camp and play well. So my dad sent me to the Syracuse camp in between my junior and senior year. And when I was there was all these blue chip All-Americans, guys with cameras following around. And I was just a guy from Rochester, right? And so all this whole camp, I'm busting their heads in. And every single day, I'm calling on the payphone. Back in the day, you put a quarter in the phone, you get in the phone booth, you call your dad up. And I'm like, Dad, I just beat up on such and such from Florida. He's not that tough. And the next time I'm like, hey, I just dominated such and such in the drills. And the third time I called him, I'll never forget. I said, Dad, I had another great practice. They're not even that good. He said, you ever think for a second that maybe they are good and you're good too? That never crossed my mind at all. Until that moment on the phone, it never possibly crossed my mind that I could possibly be anywhere near good enough, even though I had not played formally during my high school career. And so that was where the light switch went on, where I started believing in myself, having that unbreakable belief that I talk about with our kids in the Champion Academy. And that's where the Roland Williams football player everyone saw sort of got turned on.
Were there any other schools that were really looking at you other than Syracuse? I mean, you went to the Syracuse camp, and obviously that's where you got noticed, but were other schools calling you? What was the decision process like?
Well, actually, when you go to the football camps, I don't know why they do this, or maybe because all the media outlets show up, they share data. And so I went from, sort of a virtual unknown to then I got in my first magazine after that Syracuse camp. Then after that my coach sent my film out for the first couple of games. And then I had almost every college in the country reaching out because I passed my SAT, actually got like a 980 or something, which was way beyond. And so for me, I didn't know all about football, but I did know about what I wanted to do academically. I visited Ohio State. That's where my mom lived at the time with her husband. I visited Boston College because it was nearby and I knew about it. Northwestern because they had a great communication school. I visited Syracuse, and really I sort of knew, I think in my heart, that was the only school that showed me love. And I've been a Syracuse fan my whole life for basketball, and it was close. I found out they didn't pay for you to come home. And for me, that was pretty much it. And so grateful for my choice. I wouldn't have it any other way. I bleed orange, and just grateful for a chance to continue my education and keep my whole athletic life before the pros all in upstate New York.
Well, and that education piece, as you mentioned earlier, was very important to you because at the time you go to Syracuse, nobody in your family had got a 4-year education from a college. So you were going to be the first wherever you went. And that was going to be a pretty big accomplishment for your family.
It was big. It's like, my dad sacrificed so much during his life. He had me when he was senior in high school. So did my mom. And so for me, it was just a great honor to go there, to get my undergraduate degree, and I went to graduate school when I was there. It was just a great accomplishment, whether or not football worked out at all, just making it to college football, playing with some of the great talent, Donovan McNabb, Marvin Harrison, Rob Conrad, Olindo Mare, Keith Bullock. I mean, some of the guys I played with during my college career went on to have fantastic careers in the NFL. And so many great memories, so many good times, smashing the Miami Hurricanes. That was one of my highlights and my joys, but so much fun. And it was just fortunate for me that my career kept going, life after college football.
Well, and speaking of Syracuse, you were there and you mentioned Donovan McNabb. I mean, that was really a golden era of Syracuse football in the late 90s. I mean, you guys were one of the monsters of the Big East. Paul Pasqualoni was one of the brightest minds in college football. He was always up for Coach of the Year. You mentioned with Marvin Harrison and Rob Conrad. I mean, you guys had 8, 9, 10 guys end up having really solid NFL careers off of that team. And I don't think people realize truly how talented those teams were when you were there. And you guys are at 3 bowl games. I mean, just so much talent around you. How much did you learn from those guys by being around them day in and day out?
I think that's one of our key points. It's like my first year there, we did not go to a bowl game, and that really sort of motivated us. And so, literally, you had a bunch of competitive guys that drove each other to greatness day in and day out.
Well, Roland, we got a lot more to talk about. We're going to move into the NFL. When we come up right after this, we're also going to talk about Roland's post career. But coming up next, the Super Bowl in Roland Williams. We'll be right back on Homegrown right after this.
If you're living with pain or recovering from surgery and don't know where to start, Lattimore Physical Therapy can help. The Lattimore Promise includes an individual diagnosis with a highly trained licensed physical therapist on your first visit, a personalized treatment plan, communication with your doctor, and a continued personal care plan. You're never more than minutes away from pain relief. Visit LattimorePT.com.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Bill Gray's Sports Bar Grill and Tap Room, home of the world's greatest cheeseburger with a choice of 28 ice-cold, imported and locally brewed craft beers on tap. Specials every day of the week. Experience Bill Gray's Sports Bar Grill and Tap Room.
Gimme Bill Gray's. You'll get more for your money. You'll get much greater value. You talk to kind, courteous people who really care. They're so sincere. I recommend them to my family. I recommend them to my friends. They've gone way above and beyond my great expectations. It's Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Bob Johnson Chevrolet.
Back on Homegrown, I'm Brendan McDaniels. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're with Roland Williams, the pride of East High School and Syracuse University in 1998. He graduated with his degree from Syracuse, the first in his family to do that. He was also drafted in the NFL by the St. Louis Rams in the 4th round. And Roland, we want to fast forward to that second year with the Rams, 1999. And
That's fine.
there's a lot of publications that year that said the Rams were going to be the worst team in the NFL. And then the preseason, your starting quarterback, Trent Green, goes down, and some unknown dude named Kurt Warner, who is bagging groceries and playing in the Arena League, becomes your starting quarterback. What did you guys think was going to happen that season when everybody thought this team's going nowhere, and now they lost their starter, so they're going to be a train wreck?
Well, first off, everyone had the right to think that we were going to be terrible this year because the year before we were terrible. We were 4-12. I was rookie of the year though, on a terrible team, so no bueno at all. So anyway, I think when our quarterback got hurt, everyone did think we were going to go in the tank except for us. And what we did know is that we had a competitive group of guys who were young. We're the youngest team in the NFL. We were extremely competitive. And one thing they didn't know is that the previous year, we lost like 7 games by like 1 score or less. The games were so much more closer than our record indicated. And we also added this guy that year, our Super Bowl season, by the name of Marshall Faulk. And that guy is one of the best players I've ever seen in my life. Having him on the team, having all our young energy on the squad, we were poised to be great. And we made our vision for ourselves come true so the world could see it, despite our past failures.
Well, that so-called on paper worst team in the NFL turned into what was known as the greatest show on turf. And Kurt Warner had his coming out party, his MVP season on the way to becoming a Hall of Famer. What was that season like going through that with you guys knowing how good you were, but nobody else? And then you guys started winning games, and then people started week after week going, okay, well, they won 1 game. Oh, look, they won 2 games. Wait, we probably should start paying attention to these guys. And you guys just kind of blew up that season.
It was so good. It was so good. So here's where we knew we were great. Our first game of the season, right? Kurt Warner's the quarterback. We're playing the Baltimore Ravens, and we're going down for our first score. Now, all the offensive plays, okay, I'll say it. I was known as the best blocking tight end in the NFL. took great pride in doing that. But every now and again, I went out for a pass play, but it wasn't intended for me to be the guy getting the ball. Well, we get down into the red zone and we run a play that we've ran maybe a kabillion times, right? Okay, a play that never goes to me at all. Even if I'm open or not, it's always intended for the same couple of guys. Well, this time we get in the game and Kurt Warner is the quarterback. Kurt, equal opportunity. Kurt, I run a route. I get open. He sees me open. And Kurt, for the first time, never threw it to me in practice, never threw it to me in a walkthrough. And in the game, in the first touchdown pass of the Super Bowl season, he comes to Big Row. I scored the first touchdown of the season. And I said, oh man, we're going to be something special because Kurt doesn't care about anything other than just getting it to the guy to win. And that's how we played as a team. It didn't matter who it was. Everybody scored touchdowns that year. We had offensive linemen scoring, fullbacks, wide receivers. I had 7 touchdowns that year. And that's the kind of environment it takes to be great at everything. Unselfishness, right? Team first, and doing your absolute best every day.
And you guys were certainly a team first, and it was evident at that time. And I remember that season like it was yesterday, just because, I mean, that was really such a fun team to watch. And you guys, you won the NFC Championship. You go to the Super Bowl 34 against the Tennessee Titans. People talk about Super Bowl week and how crazy Super Bowl week, and certainly in 2020, Super Bowl week is much crazier than it was in 1999. But take us through Super Bowl week. Like, how truly crazy is it for you as a player as you're trying to prep, but there's media, there's family coming in, you're traveling? Like, what's that like?
Well, the crazy part about our year, it was the first year they tried to test the 1 week turnover into the Super Bowl. So unlike all the other Super Bowls where they had 2 weeks, they gave us 1 week to play the Super Bowl the following week. And in Atlanta, Georgia, there was an ice storm that week. And so I would say that we probably played in the Super Bowl with the most adversity anybody else played in, because we only had 1 week of preparation. On top of that, we played in an ice storm. And on top of that, it's the Super Bowl. So media outlets from all across the world, everybody you've ever known wanting to be your friend or talk to you for 5 minutes. But if I talk to everybody I know for 5 minutes, that would take a couple weeks. So unfortunately, a lot of people had to sit down and wait until after the game. And so I'm grateful that I had a team of people who were focused. We all sort of stuck together that week. I tried to stay as focused as you could, but man, oh man, representing Rochester, being the first guy from Rochester, right from the city, to be in the big game and be a starting tight end in the Super Bowl, there's nothing better in the world. And I'm so glad we won the game, because it would not have been so cool if we lost the game, right? So I'm so grateful we won and brought that title home, because a lot of people in my hometown don't get a chance to smell Super Bowl trophies that often when you're loving those 2 local teams. I won't say their names.
Absolutely not. But in that game, you had 1 catch for 9 yards. Do you remember the route? Do you remember the play?
Of course. One more job of Kurt Warner doing what he does. I had Eddie Robinson, I think the linebacker. He had me in press coverage, and I knew how to get off the release, drove him up, got vertical, made that hip open up, came out the break, snap, head around, wow. And as soon as I turned, Kurt Warner, put it right in the money, right in the bread basket. There's not much to think about. He did his job. I made sure that I had plenty of ball security as a tight end. We have no room for error, and off and running. And so I was glad to be a part of it, catching the ball. But most importantly, I had a chance to lay hands on plenty of defenders to help us towards that Super Bowl victory.
Well, and you guys won the game, but it was pretty close. That final play, you're on the sideline because the defense is on the field. Tennessee has the ball. Steve McNair with an opportunity to score. If they score, get a conversion, they can tie it, or they can send it to overtime in that game. What emotions are going through? Because the Super Bowl is on the line, and because you're on offense and the defense on the field, you have no way to affect the outcome. How tough is that?
Well, the reality is when you play in the game, you don't worry about any of that stuff. You're trying to just lock in and do your job. We were already frustrated with this team anyway, because we felt as though we were maybe 30 more points better than how we had played. And so we were trying to get them out of there. So during that moment, we were actually focused on the sideline, going over plays about what we were getting ready to do. And then in the midst of us like talking with the coaches and looking at everything, we sort of looked up and they're like, is it over? And then we sort of got it secondhand and it was just equally as good. Mike Jones with an amazing tackle got the job done and won the Super Bowl. So it was beautiful.
At the 1 yard line, one of the most fantastic finishes of a Super Bowl you can find.
So sweet, man. Sweet.
Well, and Roland, that wasn't the only opportunity in the Super Bowl. So you moved on to the Oakland Raiders a couple years later, and you played for John Gruden in the 2002 season. You were a starter for majority of that season, but Doug Jolly started in the playoffs because you got injured. What happened to you during that season, and what was it like having to watch your team from the sideline in those crucial moments and really watching somebody else play your position that you couldn't do because of injury?
It was hard. I dislocated my sesamoid bone in my toe, and they told me I can get a surgery or try to suck it up and play through the season. We were having such a good season, and I knew we had a special team. I sucked it up. I played for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then unfortunately, I blew my knee out on the exact same leg. That is about as unfortunate a 1-2 punch as you can possibly have. It's football. It happens, right? And I did the best I could to support. And Doug Jolly was a great, young, talented tight end, a whole lot of quickness and speed. I'm more of an F-250. He was more like a nice Maserati. And so I thought that was great. And it was just unfortunate. I think Gruden was our previous coach for the Raiders that went to the Bucs. There's a whole lot of things he knew about us that no other coach would have known. And just an unfortunate situation. Our center, if you remember, ended up having some challenges and had to miss the game. And it was just a lot going on. I think in retrospect, probably one of the most sad moments in my career because we were so much better and we underachieved and with a big opportunity. But happy AFC championship and great time for my career.
Roland, where were you during that Super Bowl? Were you on the sideline? Were you in the stadium? Were you at home? Where were you?
I was actually on the field, man. I was like the water boy. I would not be denied. I was literally hobbling out there with candy in my hands. I asked all the guys their favorite candy. I'm out there talking smack. I had to get out there. I just had to get out in the field. So I'm literally hobbling out on the field, bringing the guys candy and Jolly Ranchers and stuff during the Super Bowl just so I could be out there in the field. I couldn't help it. And my knee was swollen up like a grapefruit the next day. It was crazy, but it was fun.
It was one of those rare opportunities to be in the Super Bowl. Again, we've got a lot more coming up with Roland Williams. We're going to talk about how his career ended abruptly a few years after that. We're also going to talk about what he's been up to since he retired about 15 years ago. All that more is coming up on Homegrown right after this.
How would you like it today? How do you like your Zweigles? You know Zweigles, you know taste, but Heart of the Grill's not the only place. See what you're missing right in your kitchen. Put a smile on your family's face. Chicken, sausage of every kind. Great taste is what you'll find. How would you like it today? How do you like your Zweigles?
Remember the days when cheeseburgers were $3.99 and you could get a pint for $2? You still can at Bill Gray's. $3.99 for the world's greatest cheeseburger and $2 for a Blue Light pint. Throwback Thursdays at Bill Gray's.
Gimme, gimme, gimme Bill Gray's.
If you're living with pain or recovering from surgery and don't know where to start, Lattimore Physical Therapy can help. The Lattimore Promise includes an individual diagnosis with a highly trained licensed physical therapist on your first visit, a personalized treatment plan, communication with your doctor, and a continued personal care plan. You're never more than minutes away from pain relief. Visit LattimorePT.com.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
We're back on Homegrown with Roland Williams. I'm Brendan McDaniels. Thank you so much for joining us. So Roland was a Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl runner-up, and then after that time with the Oakland Raiders, excuse me, I was going to say Los Angeles Raiders, still Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. Very confusing. But you actually went to Tampa Bay for a year, then you went back to the Raiders, back to the Rams in 2005, and unfortunately, an injury really cost you your career. You didn't get a chance to end on your own. I mean, what happened to end your career?
Well, a routine pass went awry. At least I caught the ball. But my other knee, not the one that I blew out with the Raiders, but my other knee, it got hit where from the knee down, my foot was faced backwards the opposite direction. Ouch. Don't quite wish that on any human being. To either extent, they were able to bring my leg back around on the field. I rehabbed for about a year or so, and literally I couldn't compete against an eighth grade field hockey team in the rehab facility. It still hurt like day one. And I knew that from an NFL playing perspective, my days were over. And just grateful for my entire career. One fun fact, though, I was actually the only guy in NFL history to leave two teams that you went to the Super Bowl with, come back to both teams and get your starting job back.
Really? No kidding.
That's a fun fact. Think about it. I mean, that's pretty rare, right? You actually go to a Super Bowl, start on another team, go to the Super Bowl, leave both teams, and come back to both teams and get your starting job back. That's a fun fact for your hometown, big bro.
See, there you go. People can use that at cocktail parties now.
Right? I mean, come on. I think it went back to just them actually liking me as a person. I enjoyed being there, and I was grateful for everything I got. And I think that started from my early upbringings here in Rochester. You know, I'm just grateful for having a chance to play the game I love so much. And I was happy every day I was out there playing. I was grateful every single day that I had a chance to come all the way from Genesee Street to the big time in the NFL.
Well, you speak about the big time and all your on-field accolades, but you had a lot of off-field accolades too. You mentioned your Rams Rookie of the Year, but you were the unsung hero one year. You're a two-time Walter Payton Man of the Year for your team and a semi-finalist for the league-wide Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And that also too speaks of your upbringing and the man you became from Rochester. What were those awards? How important were those to you?
Well, I think it comes down to saying you may be a great football player on the field, but are you a great person off the field? And one thing I'm grateful for is my family members, my mom, my dad, my grandmothers were very close to me. And one thing my grandmothers always say is you can't beat God giving. And so the more you give, the more you get. And that's something that's held true in my life. I just did my best. And although imperfect many times, I was always consistently just trying to just do my best. And I think that has paid big dividends and a few awards, and people patted me in the back for at least making an effort to do my best.
Well, and those Walter Payton Man of the Year, I mean, that's philanthropy, giving back to your community, whether it's your hometown, your NFL city. I mean, and those really have shaped your post-playing career as you are now. I mean, we're talking to you right now from Los Angeles, but you're very involved here in Rochester, the Champions Academy. You started that about 5 years ago. What is the Champions Academy, and what are you doing to give back to your hometown?
Well, there's so many challenges going on in our hometown. You have to find something that means something to you. And one of the things that I know is that Rochester has unlimited potential that's right underneath the radar, walking around the streets of Rochester every single day. And so the Champion Academy is about helping teens that have had challenges, that are going through challenges, help them connect with positive people, places, and things to help them maximize their potential. I'm only successful because some people believed in me, gave me a shot, helped me out, and kept me exposed to positive things while I was going through challenges. And we do the same exact thing. We've taken kids that have been 0.1s and turned to 4.0s and 1.2s to 3.9s, and sometimes a 0.0 to a 199 and graduating. Woo, yes. All of those valuable victories to keep them away from poverty, keep them away from pain, prison, all of the above. And so it's been very tireless work. I feel extremely needed. We're working hard every single day to raise funds for the Champion Academy. So if anybody is feeling love and wants to give $5 or $10, you can do it right from your mobile phone. You text the word unbreakable to the number 41444. That's it. The number 41444. Then down in the little two part where the message, you type the word unbreakable, and this link is going to show up and you can donate. And we're trying to get people that just care enough to give $10 a month, man. Like, we can all do it together, and we can do a whole lot with a little, even during COVID.
Yeah, and Roland, I mean, it's really something that's grassroots. I mean, you're not asking people for hundreds of dollars, you're asking them for a small amount. But if everybody gives a small amount, it becomes a very large sum, and you can do so much more.
Absolutely. Right. That's how the world has been changed, with little people doing a lot, right? A whole lot of people doing a little bit. So I'm just grateful. We have a lot of people that care in Rochester. I'm working hard as an entrepreneur, continuing to try to build my legacy and grow to the next phase of life. And I'm doing my best, and I'm going to keep doing my best. But whatever I do, I think it's important to pay homage to where you're from, to help a place where we're from, right? No one else cares about Rochester than Rochesterians. And I think it's important that we should think about those who don't have. Think about the next Roland Williamses of the world, and let's do all that we can to help them have a shot.
And Roland, more importantly, I mean, when we're talking to these young people, and it's so important because, I mean, certainly every kid wants to grow up and they want to be in the NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball, hockey, whatever. But there's so many things you can go pro in, and certainly your story is a unique one where you were able to fulfill a dream of playing professional football. But all these kids aren't going to have that opportunity, and that's okay. And how do you talk to them about, listen, you don't have to be a pro athlete to be successful. You can be successful in a lot of different areas. I mean, how does that conversation really morph for some of these young people that you work with?
I think it's just about being real. It's like, you got to keep it real. It's like, you have a better chance of getting struck by lightning than going to the pros. That's just a fact. That's just math, right? And so even me, I couldn't play forever, right? It's about leaning on the things that you have long term. And so for me, that has always been education. That's always just been being a good person, right? I haven't been the smartest guy in every situation, every moment. I've made my fair share of mistakes on every single level. But you know what? I'm resilient, and I'm going to be positive the next day, and I'm going to keep on doing my absolute best. And so I think that when you share these principles, right, these attitudes, these disciplines, I think that it'll give them the tools they need to be successful at whatever they do in life. It doesn't matter if your thing is football or not, right? Art, it could be engineering, whatever. You're still going to need the principles of belief and courage and teamwork and perseverance and being honest. And I think that when you do all those things, you have a shot to be great, and certainly worthy of being a proud Rochesterian.
Absolutely. And Roland, I think for you too, is, I mean, you put your money where your mouth is. I mean, you live in Los Angeles, and you're not just doing this remotely. Like, you actually come back and you're involved with these kids. Like, you come back to Rochester, and how often are you able to come back to Rochester, and how often are you able to work with these kids in person, hand in hand?
Well, pre-COVID, okay, for the last 4 years, I was coming back every single month for about a week. In the summertime, my kids and I, we actually came back and stayed in Rochester for about a month every summer. And my dad still lives there. And so, it's just one of those things. But with COVID, it's been different. And so I'm looking forward to coming back. I'm protective of my mom here in Los Angeles. She has lupus. That's important. I try to do everything I can to keep her safe. My kids are virtual schooling, and they need dad more than ever in virtual school. Okay, virtual school. And so I'm just doing my best to handle the right immediate needs of my own personal life, and do my best virtually with my extended family. So I'm hoping that the end of this year will end up a lot better. I'll be back in Rochester so much more. And also have this new company that's taken up a little bit of my time as well.
And that company, I mean, you're speaking of COVID and helping people out. J2 Medical Supplies is something that is a company that you recently started. And I mean, not that a pandemic is good, but I mean, your business has really been benefiting from COVID, so you can help people. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. During my time here in Los Angeles, met a lot of great people. One of them, my partner and his wife, been in manufacturing, fulfillment, sourcing for 30 plus years. And with COVID, everything changed for their industry, and we just repurposed it to focus on helping those who need it most. And so, we're doing hospitals and government contracts and all those things. We have about 200-person sales team, and we're just doing our best to get PPE into as many hands as we possibly can. And the need is immense here in our country, and so we're just doing our best to participate. So it's bittersweet, happy, sad that people have to suffer as our company continues to build. But I hope that we'll just be a reliable resource to limit the amount of sickness, fatality, and all of that when it comes to COVID, especially with the healthcare workers and those at the front lines.
And Roland, I mean, you as a parent, I'm a parent too, and we were talking before we started taping the show about COVID and going back to school. And you're a single dad. You've got three boys. What's it like raising them through the pandemic out on the West Coast? I mean, certainly it's a different atmosphere. I mean, we feel here in Rochester, we're kind of on the back end of it, but I mean, you guys are hitting the really the peak for California right now.
Yeah, California is it's a lot going on. And one of the things that's so simple about COVID is like social distance, wear your mask, wash your hands, like do the basic things, and we can get through this faster. But people are so hard-headed. And in California, the sunny beaches, the sunshine, everything is not a conduit for people to sit down and social distance. And so we're going through it. Our governor is doing his best to legislate us in California, the mayor here in Los Angeles. It's so much happening. But from my perspective, we're trying to just make sure we participate and do it the right way, that we stay and we follow the protocols, and hopefully we'll get through this sooner than later, because California is definitely not like our hometown in following directions in regards to COVID.
Well, and hopefully this thing happened, we get by it pretty quickly. And I want to touch on, you've got the Rams background right behind you on your virtual background.
The new Rams logo, the new Rams.
So, Roland, being a Rams alumni, how much are you involved with the Rams organization right now, and how much do you follow them right now?
Well, I follow them a lot in participating in the Rams organization, not so much on the field or coaching or anything, but the Rams alumni is a big part of helping the fans know what's happening with the program, doing a lot of the community service stuff that we do. We're trying to be involved with a lot of our sponsors. I actually have, I did a pregame show I used to do for all of our suite holders, and I'm pretty involved. I'm on the board of our Rams Legends alumni organization. And so I try to do as much as I can, but it's exciting with the Rams, especially when you get guys from our hometown that's going for the squad and doing well, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and you and I were talking before the show, Ernest Edwards, who's from the Aquinas Institute, University of Maine, fighting for that roster spot. And I mean, you were a draft pick. I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed your roster spot. But I mean, for a guy like Ernest, who's coming in as an undrafted free agent, what's that road like? What's he going through right now, especially 1 week before the final cut down, where his life is on the line, because he can either make the team, he can be on the practice squad, or he could be completely out of work. I mean, that's a huge discrepancy between the good and the bad.
Correct. You will never have a job that has a higher performance threshold than playing in the National Football League. Unfortunately, you don't know what reps they're going to call in the middle of a practice, or they're going to get an opportunity to make a play or not. There's so many factors, but I know what he's going through. He's thinking about his entire football life is in front of him, and I know he's focusing on doing everything he can to put his best foot forward. And so it's so tough for rookies now. They have less time to be in full pads than ever before. They have less time for practice than ever before because they cut down the practice schedule in the new CBA. And then you have COVID, and then you have everything else. So what a challenging environment this is for him to come in and play. But if he can make the team through all of this, man, it is truly deserved. So I'm rooting for them as one hometown guy to another. I sure would love to have another player with that Ram logo behind them on their interview on your show. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, it would be certainly fantastic, and Ernest is a great young man, and just kind of to put a bow on this show, we've talked about a lot here. Growing up in Rochester, East High School, college graduate, bowl champion at Syracuse, Super Bowl champion, philanthropist, business owner. I mean, father of three. You've got a lot of things going on for you. What's next for Roland Williams?
What's next? I think it's I have a couple of books I'm working on. Obviously, this business with J2 Medical Supply, I want to see it all the way through and hopefully take it to a higher platform and maybe go to that next level of selling it, right? And then for me, I think it's about helping to raise my kids, really making sure they're great individuals and continuing to lean in philanthropy and doing all I can to help as many people as I can. That's what I love, man. I love making a difference, and hopefully when it's all said and done, people will look back on my life and see it was so much more than just playing football and wearing a helmet.
Well, and Roland, as you know, this is our very first show, and when our producer Gary and myself were starting to go through potential guests, and we talked to some people around the area, and your name came up quite often as someone that we should bring on first, and so we really appreciate you being our very first guest, and we couldn't be happier that you agreed to come on and join us for a little bit.
Well, congratulations. I think this is a great show. Well produced. Great job. You're clean. I love the jacket. I love it all, man. Outstanding job. We need more fun stuff like this. We need more great shows. And I'm glad I could be of assistance for your inaugural episode.
Well, thanks a lot, Roland. Hopefully we'll have you on again down the road. Maybe around Super Bowl time, we'll join back up and we'll do it. Maybe it'll be a Bills-Rams Super Bowl this year. Who knows? It could be crazy. And awesome. we'll do a little East Coast, West Coast
edition of Homegrown. I like it already. I like it. An annual event, the Super Bowl event.
There we go. We're gonna put it together.
All right, man.
Roland, thank you so much for your time. That is Roland Williams, pride of East High School, Syracuse University, and a Super Bowl champion. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for joining us on our first show. Coming up next week, Syracuse basketball legend Roosevelt Bowie will join us. He'll talk to us about his time with the Louie and Bowie Show, growing up in rural Kendall, spurning the NBA, and almost playing with the Showtime LA Lakers. All that and more is coming up next week on Homegrown. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.